All right, welcome back to the channel. Deontay Wilder standing up like a man and saying he don't want no franchise belt. And if they try to give him a franchise belt, hey, they can just go ahead and give it to somebody else and make them a franchise champion because he wants to fight mandatories because he thinks that's what's great about boxing and that's what's fair in the sport of boxing. Let's talk about that also and the weight that he's coming in for the Luis Ortiz rematch in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, I want to say thank you so much, as usual, to my Patreon community and to the live stream community. Thank you guys so much for attending the live streams that we do Monday through Friday and our special show, OG Boxing Talk, on Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with my executive producer, Blood Boxing, co-host KQKC Boxing, Curtis Anderson, and Trap House Boxing. Now let's talk about the heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is currently training for the rematch against Luis King Kong Ortiz to take place. I do believe it's going to be in Las Vegas in November. Very dangerous fight for Deontay Wilder, as is the case with most heavyweight fights, because, you know, when you're getting in there with guys that weigh 250, 260 pounds and can hit you in your chin, there's a chance that anybody can get put out with a big shot by guys like that. So danger is inherent in the heavyweight division. However, it's added a little bit extra danger when the guy is a world-class fighter, top level heavyweight, that a Cuban style fighter fighting from the southpaw stance that's been in the ring with you before. Nothing's guaranteed in this fight. I'm looking forward to the fight. I kind of am with Evander Holyfield when he said he doesn't understand why Deontay Wilder took it. But if you listen to the comments that he made about the franchise championship, I think that it will give you some insight into the man's mind. So he being Deontay Wilder, was presented with a question, and he was asked about what he thinks about the franchise championship. And the franchise, just for a little bit of background, what the franchise championship is for the WBC is where I'm not going to use that word regular champion, where the champion is elevated or given I don't even think it's fair to say elevated, is given a distinction called a franchise championship or a franchise belt, and he no longer has to fight mandatories to hold on to that belt. So unlike, Deontay Wilder right now, where he has mandatories that he has to face, his next mandatory is at present, he does not have a mandatory. There is a little bit of confusion, I do believe, around what Mauricio Sulaiman said about Tyson Fury and how Tyson Fury's fight would serve as the mandatory fight for 2019. That is slightly different than Deontay Wilder than Tyson Fury being named the mandatory. Now, slight distinction, but it's actually not the same thing. People have been talking about Tyson Fury being the mandatory. No, Deontay Wilder is not mandated to fight Tyson Fury. If Deontay Wilder doesn't fight Tyson Fury, he's not going to get stripped for not fighting Tyson Fury. But under the rules of the WBC, the champion is supposed to fight a mandatory every year. So what they're doing, because of Dillian Whyte testing positive, is they're saying for this year, we're just going to count a voluntary fight that he's going to have with Tyson Fury as fulfilling the mandatory obligation. So slight difference, but important enough to point out. Now, because they're not going to be two mandatories at the same time. Anyway, that's the mandatory. So the franchise champion, if Deontay Wilder was given the franchise belt, that would go away. That would go away similar to the way it went away for Canelo Alvarez when Jermall Charlo was his mandatory, and Jermall Charlo was then elevated to the champion, the WBC championship. Same thing happened for Vasily Lomachenko. When Vasily Lomachenko won the belt, Vasily Lomachenko was then given the franchise distinction, which meant that he didn't have to fight the mandatory. The mandatory at the time was Devin Haney. Devin Haney moves into becomes the WBC champion without having to fight for it, similar to the way that it happened with Jamal Charlo and Canelo Alvarez. Deontay Wilder said he's not interested in that. And he makes a very, very good point. Mandatories, people become mandatories because they work very hard to become mandatories. They fight their way up in the, theoretically, they fight their way up in the rankings. They fight, whether, a lot of times these guys that they're fighting, they get ranked, aren't actually beating other guys that are ranked in that division to get that ranking. But that point aside, they've had to do something in order to earn a position as a mandatory. So take, for example, Dillian D-Ball Whyte. Dillian D-Ball Whyte did have fights against good fighters, against guys like Joseph Parker. He did fight, I would say Oscar Rivas, but we know what happened in that. But Oscar Rivas is a top fighter as well. So he did fight people to get into the position of being the mandatory. It was not literally just handed to him for no reason whatsoever. So Deontay Wilder saying, look, man, when these guys get into that position, I don't mind fighting them. He said it adds to the excitement of the fight. He was kind of cracking jokes about Dillian Whyte and saying, hey, man, you become mandatory and then you got to wait around and you're saying, where's my shot? Where's my shot? The champion gets to go back and forth with the mandatory challenger. And eventually the fight happens. It adds a lot of tension and excitement to boxing. But most importantly, he says, hey, man, I'm willing to fight the guy. And, like in an example with Dominic Breazeale, where Dominic Breazeale was talking for a very long time about him being the mandatory for Deontay Wilder. Even strangely enough, right in the midst of this 600 days, Dillian Whyte is saying he was the mandatory. Well, actually, Dillian Whyte is saying he was the number one contender for 600 days. He was never the mandatory for 600 days. He was the mandatory for about 30 days before he got popped dirty on D-Ball. Anyway, that's what we do on this channel. Whenever possible, we try to correct some of the media narratives that are put there to manipulate people's impressions of what's going on. Deontay Wilder says, though, that if somebody did offer him that he would not take it. If the WBC said, look, we want you to be the franchise champion and we don't want you to have to fight any mandatories, Deontay Wilder said, you can give that to somebody else. Make somebody else the franchise champion and let them carry your belt around and fight willy-nilly whoever they want. He wants to fight the people that are out there that earn their way into a shot. And hey, man, that's why that's the champ. Now, there's a lot of people out there that got a lot of stuff to say about Deontay Wilder. But it's my impression from watching this guy for the last several years that dude is just about the realest champion in all of boxing. This guy he's not ducking anybody. He's not dodging anybody. He's not coming up with excuses. Like Evander Holyfield said that he thought Deontay Wilder was out of his mind, or he implied that Deontay Wilder was out of his mind for taking Luis Ortiz again. He's like, why? You already beat the guy. The guy's difficult. Let somebody else have to beat him. But Deontay Wilder's saying, no, man, I want to go again. There's some doubts about that fight. Hey, man, I might win. I might lose, whatever. But I'm going to knock this dude's head off and I'll be seeing you in November. Dude, who else is doing that, man? When's the last guy that really not in a draw, but in a fight that was difficult where he gets hurt, is going back in there against a very difficult, trying opponent? The other champions are not doing that. Now, the closest thing was Canelo rematching Gennady Golovkin after a draw, but Gennady Golovkin held his belts. Canelo Alvarez failed to win the belt, so he went back again as a challenger to try to fight the guy. I guess you could say Gennady Golovkin wanted to fight Canelo again, so Gennady Golovkin, in the second fight, so Gennady Golovkin got a draw. So they were both kind of like sister kissers. That was kind of like a cousin kisser, sister kisser type of thing. Regardless, how many other people are looking to do that, man? People are trying to beat a guy one time if they take a tough fight at all. then they're ready to just go off. But now to have these guys be able to actually ask to get out of fighting tough mandatories, because that's exactly what Canelo Alvarez did and exactly what Vasily Lomachenko did. And to see that Deontay Wilder said, man, even if they offered me that out, I wouldn't take it. Man, that tells you that that dude's a real champ. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section about that. And with that, we're out. Peace.